Welcome to the American Small Business League podcast. I am Bruce DeTorres, and with me is William Marks, who ran for Congress as a Democrat in the recent primary in Texas for the 25th District. Somebody else won. William is a decorated combat veteran and award-winning Navy communicator with 22 years in the military, and then 6 years working at Meta. Thank you very much for joining me today, William. How are you?
Thanks for having me. Love the American Small Business League. I love everything you stand for. So great to be here.
Well, I really want a download from you, from the hip, from the heart. What? Tell me the story of the campaign. Kind of beginning, middle, and end. But you don't even have to tell me that first. Like from the heart. The real question is, what did you learn? What's your,
Yeah.
besides any of these questions, William? What's your biggest takeaway from the experience?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I think running for any elected position, there are training videos out there. You can read about it, but nothing at all prepares you for running for elected office other than just doing it. And you learn so much. A few things I'll give you probably the top thing. And I'm speaking at the congressional level. Um, if you are running for city councils or school boards, it's a lot different. You only can be competitive really in one of three ways. The first way is if you write yourself a check for about $200,000 on day one. Really, it's a lot more than that. But on day one, if you can write yourself a check for $200,000, you're immediately competitive in that race. You can hire a team, you can build infrastructure, you can get your technology stack ready, and you're on your way. And that initial investment of a couple $100,000 helps you get more money. So it takes money to get money, one of those kinds of things. The second way you can be competitive on day one is be famous. You can be a celebrity, an athlete, an astronaut, anyone who has this huge name recognition right off the bat. That's the second way because right on day one, you already have this huge name recognition that you can build from. And the third way, I call it the more organic way, is you can have lived in the same area for decades and have slowly built up this large network. I would say it does need to take decades of living in this same area. It does help if you're a small business owner or maybe a teacher, something like that, where you interact with the public quite a bit. And that way your network starts really small, but you slowly build this network of many thousands of people so that if you do want to run for Congress on day one, you're starting with this pretty large network. There are downsides to all those.
Mm-hmm.
We don't
Well,
want millionaires being the only ones who can run for office. That's really not the way we
right.
want things.
Well, how did you
Oh,
compared to those broad strokes? Where did you start? How was your experience from beginning throughout and to the end? Tell me, I guess, tell me the story of your campaign.
yeah, so I started out with none of those things. However, my Republican opponent, the incumbent, had not had any challenger whatsoever since 2020. And I really felt in my heart that, you know, the people at least deserve a choice. The part of the American way is to at least have a choice
Hmm.
amongst your elected officials. So I said to myself, all right, well, if no one else is running and no one else had run for, again, since 2020,
Hmm.
I said, all right, I can do this. I will run a very lean campaign. I will use social media, all the free marketing I can get. I'm a fairly good public speaker, and I was able to dedicate, it was my full-time job. So I could dedicate, from 8, 9 in the morning until the evening, I could dedicate my personal time
Hmm.
to running. And that meant doing personal events. So I did 200 personal events over the course of 7 or 8 months. I walked 380 miles in the same pair of shoes over 8 months. So I said to myself, I'm willing to do this, especially if no one else has run since 2020.
And the incumbent is Roger Williams, right?
Yeah, his name is
Right.
Roger Williams, a Republican, and this district was sort of drawn just for him to win. It
Hmm.
was highly gerrymandered. One of those things where it was gerrymandered so much, no Democrat was ever going to win it. And so and I said, that's not right. And that's part of the reason why I started this campaign. Now, after this is a little bit inside baseball for the viewers, but I started campaigning, and after 3 or 4 months, Republicans in Texas redrew the map to try to win more seats. So they gerrymandered things even worse than they are now. They changed the demographics of my area. They completely changed the map. So for the first 3 or 4 months, I was running in the completely wrong district. I was campaigning to people who couldn't vote for me.
Well, not at the time they could have, but in the middle of your
Oh yeah, yeah.
campaign, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. So at the time, yes, of course, I ran in my own area and I spoke to people who were constituents in that congressional district.
And by the way, is your campaign website still live and active?
You can still go to williammarks.com.
Because I wanted to compliment your communications. I got on your mailing list. I interviewed you a few months ago and was very impressed by the quality of your communication. And you're a professional communicator. That's your Navy story, which anybody can read about once you, wherever you might post that. And it was very compelling. I mean, your personality and your intelligence and your enthusiasm radiated out of the emails that I got. So kudos to you. That's all.
Thanks so much, and I appreciate that. And the one positive I did take from this campaign was when people got the chance to know me, when they saw me, when they met me, when they heard me, they were on the team. They were very supportive, very enthusiastic. And one thing everyone should really know about primaries. So, primaries are super quirky, they're unpredictable, they don't follow normal campaign rules, and they're not really based on someone's policy or experience. They are very much based on name recognition. And that was part of it. I ran up against a someone who had, oh boy, 90 years of family name recognition in one small area, and I could not overcome that built-in name recognition.
As
Perhaps,
a Democrat opponent for the primary, and the winner now is going to face Mr. Williams.
yeah, that's correct. So
Okay.
the winner will move on to the midterm elections this November,
Okay.
and we'll see how that goes. I'm confident the Democratic Party will flip the House. I think the sentiment
Okay.
around the country is indicating that.
Will you be endorsing and campaigning for this Democrat?
I did. So
Okay. Who is it? Yeah.
the very next day, I told all 20 something thousand of my Facebook followers to support Dion Sims. If you go to my Facebook page, you'll see that post the very next day. And again a second time, I posted that folks should follow her and support her. So the most important thing in my mind is I know this is partisan on my part, but I do believe that the Democrats need to win the House of Representatives to get the country back on track, and so that's the most important thing.
Okay. Yeah, FYI, we've reached out to Mr. Williams' office recently to try to excite some excitement about our issues. And the person we spoke to was a staff member, like a legislative aide or something like that, and they were very professional, very serious and very candid in saying, base my words, but basically, well, that sounds very DEI, and we're Republicans. She almost could have said, so we don't really care.
Yeah. Yeah, I will tell you, Roger Williams is no friend of small business. In his mind, he will define a small business as one with 500 employees, one with $50 million of revenue, where I think true small business owners, the ones I've talked to, and I think the ones that you talk to are, they might have 10 or 20 employees.
Yes,
They
and
struggle with payroll. They work hard. They would love to get a government contract for small businesses, which are being taken away from them. They don't even know about them half the time because
but
of the corrupt small business administration system that favors large businesses over small businesses.
yes, and Mr. Williams is not just any congressman. He's the chairman of the House Small Business Committee.
Yeah, and his business is valued at $50 million plus. That's on his personal financial disclosure. The other hard thing is he inherited that business and he acts like he built it from scratch.
What was that?
Uh,
What is that business? What is that
it's a
industry?
car dealership. He's a
Okay.
car dealer.
Okay.
Yeah, so he inherited this business. He really has never had to earn anything. It was given to him. And
Multiple
so
locations throughout the state
um,
or just in the district?
that's a good, no, it's just in this district and it may just be one large location.
Yeah, but if it's
I'm
embedded and it's successful for decades, there you go.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And you don't have to take my word for it. Look up his personal
Yeah.
financial
Oh,
disclosure. You'll see he's
yeah.
worth some estimates say 100 million, some say 140 million dollars. And so this is very consistent with the Trump administration, how they value billionaires over the working class. And we have billionaires trying to run the treasury. We have billionaires trying to um, work out health care and for the working class. And when we all know that, these folks are so far removed from the working class, I mean, tell me the last time these billionaires have gone grocery shopping. When's the last time they actually had to meet payroll on a monthly basis like a small business owner? They haven't.
Where's the hope? Where's the hope for anybody who wants to run for such an office? And what are the problems or what are the recommendations to rectify even some of the things maybe you said earlier about this is what you need to get started, absent that, blah, blah, blah. Talk to me, talk about all that stuff.
Yeah. No, I love that question because there are so many local races that need good candidates. And you don't have to have a lot of money. You just have to work hard and put your mind to it. Some of the biggest needs are on our school boards. If you believe in diversity of education, if you believe in not banning books all over the place, if you believe in um, learning opposing viewpoints, run for the school board. Please, please, we need you. City councils, we need you. If you wonder, look at small businesses. If you wonder where they get their start, the zoning regulations need to be friendly to small businesses, how they get started, how they manage their paperwork through their local government. All that starts at the city council. So if you're mad at a zoning, how that a zoning is zoned one way instead of another, or a business permit takes too long, that's your city council. So you do not need a lot of money to run for that. You need to dedicate a few months of your time, work really hard, get your friends and family to support you, and you can run for something like that successfully. And I urge everyone to look into those local races.
Search your heart and your mind right now to share anything else along these lines before I guide us with questions.
Yeah, yeah. So, um, I believe that the system is not set up for the working class to win elections and be successful, and I think that needs to change. The way to do that, the only way to do that at this point is election finance reform. And if you look 20 years ago, we had a really good start led by a gentleman named John McCain, who also went to the Naval Academy like I did. If you look up the McCain-Feingold Act, even before then, there were ideas, but that had us on the right track to campaign finance reform. But now the way the system is set up, where a billionaire can donate 200, 300 million dollars to get someone elected. Folks, that's not the American way. That's not how our founding fathers had envisioned this system.
And that really broke up with Citizens United about 10,
Yeah,
12 years
correct.
ago.
Correct. So if you look back at things like McCain-Feingold, that was in the early 2000s or so, and then a group called Citizens United challenged that. And what they said was, well, a corporation has a right to free speech, or a group can bundle together thousands of people in a group, and that group together has a right to free speech.
And
And I'm,
unlimited campaign donations.
yeah, correct, right? And I think they have hidden behind this value of free speech. Yes, each individual, we all have our First Amendment right to free speech. However, there are limitations on every right, on every amendment. And I believe one of those limitations, just like you can't yell fire in a crowded theater, you also should not be able to be a large corporation and influence elections with money that you can't track, money that is not accountable to anyone, money that is not traced back to any source, right? That is not the First Amendment. That is corruption of our electoral system. So my thought leading into the Q&A is really the only way to get back to where the working class folks can take back our election system is to reverse Citizens United and take this wild billions of dollars out of the electoral process, make it a public investment, and put regulations on a lot of this dark money, super PAC money that is now in elections.
What else? What's next? And you,
Well,
if
that's now,
you
yeah,
had a magic wand of
yeah,
what you just experienced, what else?
yeah. So being in the military, the other hard thing is if you do want to be in the same place and slowly build up your following and your community, that's really hard for veterans. I moved 18 times in 22 years. 18 times. I never really had roots. After I left for the U.S. Naval Academy, I was selected for the Naval Academy at 17 years old. I left after my 18th birthday, and I never was able to grow roots somewhere. And so, again, the system that we have set up really penalizes veterans. It penalizes teachers and nurses and small business owners. Because remember, go back to those three things. Most veterans are not millionaires. Most veterans are not celebrities by any sense. And a lot of veterans really, we haven't been able to live in the same community for 20, 30 years. So this system does, I think, penalize veterans. What's next for me? I don't know, but I take a lot of pride in the community I built. I built a following of 30,000 people from zero to 30,000. We had 11 million social media views. About half those were over a minute long. So people really bought into our policies and our beliefs. And I think that means a lot. I take a lot of pride in that, and I think there's something in my future, um, at least uh, at least contributing to our government, to our political process. But we'll see where that leads me.
And along those lines, now that you just spent months filling yourself with everything about your district that you could possibly fill yourself with. Maybe you just answered this question. What are you going to do with that now that you are this much of an expert on your district? What do you feel you will do with that?
Yeah, I think I went to a forum of small business owners a few weeks before the election. That really opened my eyes. Small business owners are the backbone of our economy. I met them in highly populated urban Fort Worth. I met them in the far west county of Texas with 8,000 people. They really inspired me. They are the backbone of this economy. They are voters who I think have been neglected. I think one day I may be a small business owner. And so that really opened my eyes to the needs of the community, urban, rural, old, young, across the spectrum. It really opened my eyes to a group who's been neglected. They've been neglected in terms of getting a fair shot at contracts. And not just federal big $1 million, right? We're talking even local contracts. Small business owners tell me they've been neglected. Even the local contract has tend to go to the large businesses rather than the small business owners. So I think that's something I can really work on. It's something I believe in, and I really heard the people have a voice and tell me it's something they want to change. So I think that's in my future.
Do you anticipate remaining in the district for the near, medium, and long term?
Well, I've got two amazing kids. They're twins. They are not yet in high school. And so we've got at least that amount of time watching them grow. And
Hmm.
remember, my wife's family in Texas has gone back 7 generations, well into the 1800s. So we do have roots here in Texas, and again, kids here in Texas. So we'll be
Hmm.
here for at least the time being. We'll see how it goes.
Well, sure. And just even through high school, if that's the next 4 years, that's two more congressional cycles.
Yeah.
And you might realize, wow, this current experience, filled your tank three-quarters of the way to victory. And sure, maybe it takes 2 or 3 cycles, so in 2 or 4 years, you might ring the bell, not only winning the primary, but even the general. But I hear you are, and justifiably, if I were you, yeah, I would need to let the dust settle. The dust hasn't even settled because the primary was not even 2 weeks ago or something.
Correct. 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
If I
So,
could add one final thought
yeah.
into this, you asked what's my future and will I stay in Texas? So for any candidate out there, probably the very first thing you have to look at and the most important thing is understand the district in which you are running. And that could be a small precinct in a city council or a 800,000 person congressional district. You have to know everything about the district in which you are running, the demographics, where people work, where they live, right? And again, this goes back to for 3 or 4 months, I very much understood my district and I was campaigning in, I think, just the right spots and building a coalition of people. And that was pulled out from under me in the Texas redistricting. And by the time I looked at this brand new map, brand new set of people, I had already been campaigning 3, 4 months, and I had to completely rework the strategy. Who am I talking to? Where am I going? Where am I traveling? And it was kind of too late for me. And so, what I would tell anyone who's running, look at your district, look at your precinct, wherever this geographic area is, understand who those people are, what their needs are, what they're telling you. And that's the first step.
Hmm.
And when you ask my political future, I have to know where it is, and where the need is for someone to run and understand who those folks are. And this last campaign, it just got pulled out from under me. And next time, I'll do my best to get into a place that where it's not going to get gerrymandered from out under me.
Yeah, and you're a young man, and who knows, next you might already be looking at some of those local positions that you've described, the school board, the city council, and throw yourself into that because you just spent 8 months priming yourself to anticipate the next 3 years of public service. So I'm just, inferring a lot or imposing a lot on you.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Um,
I appreciate it.
Boy, oh boy, before we leave, I want to ask, how do you feel about what the administration and Congress is doing about some of the big things going on for America these days?
Yeah, so I know this isn't a world affairs podcast, but I'm a 22-year veteran. I see what's going on in Iran. That started, I think, 2 days before my primary election. And so one of my very last messages was, hey folks, please elect people who have an understanding of world affairs, of military policy, of military operations. Now, not every single politician has to be a veteran. I understand that. But I do believe we've seen a tremendous decrease in the amount of veterans in Congress. And I do wish more folks have served. And so if you're a voter out there, I think that means a lot to have a veteran in Congress because a veteran will be very hesitant to go to war more so I think than a non-veteran, right? I've been in combat operations. I do not wish that upon anyone. That is the last resort. If you look at the words of Dwight D. Eisenhower, all the way up through Colin Powell, none of these folks have ever been war hawks. They have said very clearly war is a last resort. In many ways, war is a failure of diplomacy. So, if you ask me, the Pentagon budget does not need to be $1 billion. I would take a huge chunk of that and rebuild the State Department.
You meant $1 trillion.
Excuse me. Yes. The Pentagon budget does not need to be $1 trillion. We should use that to rebuild the State Department, rebuild our Foreign Affair Corps, rebuild our diplomacy, and prevent a war rather than getting into a war. So that's the first thing right off the bat. I'll mention that on this operation in Iran that I believe was ill-conceived. There was no strategy behind it. I believe the only thought was let's bomb first and it'll be over in a few days. Well, anyone who has studied military history knows you cannot bomb your way out of a conflict. It just simply does not work that way. Iran is a different place than even Iraq or other areas. Very ill-conceived. There's no strategy behind it. And we are seeing the effects now 2 weeks later of a very poorly planned operation. So that's my first thought right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
My second thought, if you want to get into some of the economics, some of the small businesses
Yeah.
interests, tariffs. We saw the Supreme Court reverse some of the misguided tariff laws that were unilaterally implemented. This is where I get back to where Congress has abdicated much of their responsibility and they have given it to the president, where it is not the president's to decide. One is, of course, military operations, but two, the ability to set tariffs. Is given to Congress as well as the power of the purse, right? And you may ask yourself, why would Congress do this? Why would Congress not hold the power in which the Constitution gives them? Well, quite frankly, these are terribly unpopular policies that no Republican congressman wants to put their name on. So they give it to Trump, who is a lame duck, who is right, who only has this last term, and who really has such a base that really doesn't hold him accountable. So Republicans don't want to put their name on these terrible policies. So instead of voting on them like they should, they just let Trump do what he wants, and they don't have to attach their name to them. So they don't have to attach their name to a tariff that's unpopular. They don't have to attach their name to a military operation that's unpopular. They don't have to attach their name to stripping away health care from their constituents, which is extremely unpopular. They just let Trump do it, and they wash their hands of the whole thing.
Well, what do you make of their cowardice in not repudiating them or complaining about these things?
Well, they anything bad they put on Trump, and their name's not attached to it, right?
Right, one
So,
way or
so
the
they,
other. But if it's
yeah,
right, but why can't they, vote for our interests and
no,
right and shoot these things down or send a message,
yeah,
to just abscond, to just
yeah,
abstain from going on the record either way, just convicts them as
yeah,
cowards in the pockets for the giant money interests that are benefiting from all these things.
yeah. Well, they believe that they will get down ballot votes from Trump, right? That happened in 2024. Anyone where Trump was on the ballot, the votes flowed downward to other Republicans. What's going to happen? You will see this year in the midterms. Republicans will get crushed in the House. Democrats will take back the House by many dozens of seats. And then I believe in 2028, when there's no Trump name to run on, I believe that will also negatively impact Republicans that for many, many years have run down ballot of Trump, and we're very happy to get those down ballot votes. They won't have those in at least the near future.
What do you know or make or think about the accusation that the two parties are the left and right wings of the same awful bird
Yes,
that just serves the
yes,
money that is on top and pulling the strings to both of them, like me, who consider both parties theatrical companies, and Trump isn't calling the shots. Congress isn't calling the shots. They are just whoremeisters for the money that is intentionally doing things, even like this Iran war, for long term horrible things, like maybe intentionally collapsing the world's economies in order to trap us in digital currencies that are programmable, true effing slavery that, well, we have to impose these things because if the economy collapses or food production collapses, there is real concern by long time researchers of a famine that is now around the corner if the Strait of Hormuz remains as just as closed as it is just for 21 or 28 days. It's standing on the fertilizer that is necessary for the planting of crops in Europe, in Asia, which feeds so much of the world right now. What do you make of that scenario?
well, I think the larger picture of what you're saying is we're on the verge of a recession. And if we don't get out of this in November, we will be in a depression if Democrats don't win the House. But to get to your larger point,
Which is that we can't vote our way out of it because the Democrats are as
yeah,
subservient to
yeah.
this
So
these monsters as the Republicans.
yeah, so there's a philosophical question. Are Democrats just as bad as Republicans, right? So what I would say is to a large extent, many Democrats are just as beholden to a corporate overlord as Republicans, right? The Democratic Party has been corrupted by billionaires and billion-dollar corporations to a very large extent. I will not say they're equal. In my mind, these are not two equal parties. The Republican Party is completely corrupt. to the point where anyone who calls themselves MAGA is irredeemable and they need to be voted out. The Democratic Party, I do believe, has fallen to those same corporate interests in a negative way. But I do not think the Democratic Party is completely irredeemable. I think there are good folks in the Democratic Party who, when they recognize something is wrong, will take steps to fix it. Whereas I think the Republican Party embraces things that are wrong, right? So if Democrats are in power, I do believe we would have a congressional stock trading ban. I believe that would be in place. Democrats proposed a ban on gerrymandering in 2020 that was received zero Republican votes. So just in the last 4 or 5 years, we would have a ban on congressional stock trading and a ban on gerrymandering. I am not saying the Democratic Party is perfect. What I am saying is there are good folks on the Democratic side who will try to do the right thing and have tried to do the right thing,
Mhm.
and those were all blocked by um, a 100% veto from the Republican side.
Well,
Don't
thank
forget
you.
also the border. I'll throw another one to everyone. The border bill shot down by Republicans. So any conservative who wonders is complaining that the border wasn't secure. The Democratic Party had a border bill ready to go for a stronger border, shot down by Republicans because Trump said, "Do not vote yes on that bill because the border will get stronger and it will make Republicans look bad and make Democrats look better."
Right in the
So
last year, in the last year or two of the Biden
yeah,
administration, that was
yeah,
right.
yeah, that was just before the election.
Right, right, right.
Yeah. So, but to your philosophical point, yes, Democrats to a large extent have fallen to the same corruptions as Republicans. The way to get out of that is regulate the amount of money coming into any congressional campaign, regulate the type of stocks they can trade, regulate the type of investments they can have, regulate the lobbying um, revolving door where you serve in Congress, then become a lobbyist, then go to the industry. So, my proposal, right? If you do decide to serve in Congress, that is a higher calling to the American public. You must also agree to never have any relationship whatsoever to the political process. And if you can't agree to that, you should not run. You must step away 100%, retire. You have to divest your businesses, divest of any lobbying. And if you're not willing to do that, you should not be able to run.
I hope that you continue saturating yourself with the best of American history, William, the best of America's ideals, the best of the, I'm going to say, nobility of public service. I would recommend to you along those lines and everybody listening to study the career, the thinking, and the accomplishments of President John F. Kennedy as a motivating, blazing example of the best of all of the above of the things that I just mentioned, summed up in one of his many quotes. Every man can make a difference and every man should try. And it is the calling of being an American, which is only an experiment in self government, which is what we all need to do as an individual. And it's that ancient advice: know thyself. Who am I? What do I want? What's possible? What should I want? What should I choose to do? These are the moral and ethical questions that are the greatest opportunity of being a human being. And it informs our relationship to ourselves, our capacity to be happy, our relationship to existence, nature to discover the spiritual nature of reality. And then in widening circles, our relationship to our fellow human beings. First, our family, then our friends and our community, then our country and the world, aspiring to the highest of ethics and pleasure and enjoyment, all summed up in one word: love. And in there was politics, because it's how do we organize our arrangements and our culture and our town, and it all starts with that uh, challenge or idea that I have the power to affect all those things, Bruce. Yes, even if you've spent half your life feeling powerless, which is very understandable in America. I just pretend I'm giving an hour-long sermon about how horrible the public school experience is, preventing us from being free as kids. So we don't know what freedom is as adults. So we don't miss it if we never have. You can't miss what you never had, like freedom. Kids don't have freedom; they're locked up in jail. It's a prison. William, I'll take that offline. You can We can talk about that. What would you say into that, or any other concluding comments about everything we've talked about?
Yeah. We focused a lot on my campaign and elections, and truly, um, this country is the tone of the country is set by people who do not vote. If you look at any election that did not go your way, chances are it's not that people voted for the other guy, it's that they didn't vote. And so take a couple minutes to read or watch the news and be involved. And so many voters I talked to, I asked them if they voted. They said no, because I didn't have any one to vote for. I didn't have anything to vote for. I didn't have anyone that was standing up for the little guy. And I urge everyone, don't get discouraged, because that's what they want. They want you to be discouraged. They want you to hate your neighbor instead of love your neighbor. They want you to stay away from voting and say, "Oh, well, they're all bad, so I'm not choosing the." And I don't believe that's the case. I believe there's more good out there than bad. There's more positivity. You just have to take a minute to look for it. No one's coming to save you. We've got to save ourselves. And we do that by loving our neighbor, being involved in our community, and being an educated and informed voter. That's how we fight our way through this.
Man, I hope you run again, because listen, to use a baseball analogy, no one would give up baseball if they struck out the first time they went to bat, right?
True.
So
Yeah.
maybe your primary, hey, well, that's just the first time you went to bat. So
Yeah. Thank you.
that's actually obnoxious, because I'm not in your shoes. I don't know you well enough as a personal friend to impose that on you. But I said it anyway.
I appreciate it. And
All
thanks for all
right.
you do for small businesses. If you're a small business owner, these are the folks you want on your side. I'm a fan, I'm a proponent, and I will be on your side from here going forward.
Thank you. We're going to talk after I kill this recording, but I want to thank you very much, William Marks, for being with me. And I want to thank everybody for watching and listening today.